So I'm Matthew Weinstein, and as you have noticed and will notice as we continue this presentation, all the things that we're proposing have a price tag. There are many terrific ideas that we're proposing here that will do a lot of good, and many of them even pay for themselves over time, but there is an upfront investment that's required. And so that's why my job at Voices for Utah Children is to keep an eye on fiscal policy, to keep an eye on the state's overall money picture, the public revenues. And so what I'll be talking about for the next few minutes is two of the areas, the way we break that down policy-wise. The first is the overall revenue sufficiency picture. Do we have sufficient resources available through state government, through the taxes that we all pay, to make the investments that we need to make in Utah's future, in the next generation, in our children and grandchildren? The biggest challenge that we've noticed in this area is that when we look back historically, we see that we've actually been passing tax cuts averaging $100 million every year in new tax breaks for decades, for the last 35 years at least, which now for the fiscal year 23 budget that's going to be debated in the legislature in the session that begins this month, that's $3.5 billion that's not available to make these investments in the next generation. And of course, the natural question is, well, do we even need that money? And so we've researched that, and we found that there are actually well over $5 billion of unmet needs, urgent unmet needs, in so many different areas. We heard Jesse and Syriac talking about healthcare needs. We're going to hear some others of our colleagues talking about needs in terms of juvenile justice and early education and other areas, as well as ensuring that we're treating our immigrant communities fairly and inclusively. So, and those aren't the only areas. So if you click on the link there or scan that the link there, you'll be able to see that we actually have identified well over $5 billion of urgent unmet needs in many, many different areas of state responsibility that affect all of us, including things like air quality and infrastructure, transportation access, disability services, areas that affect all of us, affect our children, and have a key role to play in determining the quality of life and standard of living for the next generation of Utahns. So that's where we're running on a theme here of invest in Utah's future, not tax cuts, that we've done our share of tax cutting. Now's the time to shift our focus to investing in Utah's future, investing in the foundations of our future growth and prosperity. And so you can read about that on that link on the left side of the page in front of you. Now, at the same time, we do focus on the question of tax fairness, and we know that our legislators are in the habit of doing tax cuts every year. We're realistic about that. And so we know that if they're going to pass more tax cuts, it's important to keep in mind that not all tax cuts are created equal. There are big differences depending on which taxes you cut and whose taxes you cut if you're going to do tax cuts. The main taxes that we've been cutting in recent years has been the income tax rate. We cut it from 7% to 5% under Governor Huntsman. Under Governor Herbert, we cut it from 5% to 4.95%. But the problem with cutting the income tax is that that's the only fair tax that we have. It's the only tax that we have that isn't a regressive tax, unlike the sales tax, the gas tax, the property tax, which are most of the taxes that most of us pay. The income tax is the only one that actually lines up with Utah's income distribution. It follows what I call the 3/5, 1/5 rule. 3/5 of all income is earned by the top 1/5 of taxpayers. 3/5 of the income tax is paid by the top 1/5 of taxpayers. So if we cut the income tax rate, we're making our tax system more regressive. We're shifting the taxes off of the highest income Utahns who earn most of the income onto average and below average income Utahns who could use a break in a lot of cases. So that's why we're saying to the legislature that if you do have to cut taxes, please consider an earned income tax credit. This is a terrific program established at the federal level under President Ford, expanded first by President Reagan, that is targeted to low and moderate income working families that must be working in order to qualify for it, to let them keep more of what they earn. So they're still paying taxes, they still have skin in the game, but they get a break because, right now our overall tax system is regressive, and the lowest income Utahns pay a higher tax rate than the highest income Utahns, when you count everything. So it would also help address the labor shortage that we have in Utah by drawing more workers into the workforce. And we could make Utah the 31st state with its own version of the earned income tax credits. You can learn more about that at utahfamilytaxcredits.org.